All right, good morning. We haven't done a Fleabay edition for a while, so I thought we better get around and do something. Weather's turning cold. It's nicer to sit in the house in the cold this morning than it is to go out into the cold shop. Nice to sit in the warm in the house this morning rather than sitting in the cold shop. So anyway, we'll look at Atlas milling machines and Atlas shapers this morning. I've already kind of perused this stuff, so kind of got an idea of what's going on. We've got quite a bit of stuff I haven't seen before. There again, I haven't been watching. We've been doing other stuff. We've been remodeling the shop, which has turned into quite the little project. And those of you that have followed me know that we've got quite a disaster area there, and it's hopefully getting a little bit better. We'll make some changes and show a little bit more as we go along. Been working on the Sheldon lathe quite a bit to get some stuff done there. Been working on the oiling plates for that, and we've got some stuff going on with that. That's the black oiling plate that goes on the top of the Sheldon. This was the first prototype that I actually printed out. I've got a few changes I've made to it. It's all sized properly and everything, but I had a couple of guys that have requested these. We're going to provide them and a complete all the other labels that go on the Sheldon for this model, and probably the Atlas, some Atlas stuff too. I've already done some of that for some of my Atlas builds. On these plates there, they're going to go out just like that. They're going to go out oversized, and the edges will have to be trimmed back a little bit, and the holes will have to be drilled. And we'll go into that a little bit more when we get that far. But anyway, that's been quite the ongoing project. But that's all the rest of the labels for the XL machines like I own are already done. I've got labels on my machine now, on my one I'm rebuilding, and I am going to change out and put this style oiling chart on because it was original for the machine that I'm rebuilding. So the other style that's got the clear background was on my original Sheldon. So anyway, neither here nor there. We're doing Atlas stuff today. Looking here at Fleabay, Atlas milling machine cast iron overarm cover. And this is a new listing. There's no bids on it. This is a fairly new seller, and I won't read the description. There's nothing really earth-shattering there. As we look at this overarm support, the standard overarm support, this one's in pretty good condition, and depending on what it goes for, this could be a good deal for somebody if you need an overarm support. Now, bear in mind, it was only the very early machines. I believe the MF was the only one that actually had this overarm support, and it can be retrofitted to the later machines if you so desire. There has to be a hole in the headstock casting, and then another hole drilled and tapped, and then the proper little handle to lock that overarm in place. Now, Atlas, I think, probably discontinued those because they're not they're original to the early machines, but they're not that functional, and most people are going to jerk them off when you use it. If you use much of a horizontal cutter at all, why, it's going to be too big to fit underneath that overarm support, and it's actually kind of inconvenient to work around them. So they look cool on the original machines. Are they really that useful? I kind of question whether they are or not, but this one, pretty good overall condition. It's been repainted, of course, over the years, and you got some chipping and stuff in here. I'm not going to look at it any closer than what we are in these big pictures, but a fairly good condition. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. If somebody needs one, why, like I say, this can be a good buy for the right price. I would think I probably wouldn't give more than, if you really had to have one, $150 for these. And the only reason I say that is I've been working on the casting patterns for these, and I will probably eventually get these out there, but like I say, I haven't pushed them too hard because they're not that useful an accessory. I'm probably going to put out that casting, a reproduction of that, in that $150 to $200 range, and I think that's too much for them. I don't honestly think they're worth that much. You know, if I was looking for one for my machine and was looking at a used one like this, I probably wouldn't give more than $75 or $100 maybe at the outside, and, you know, another $20 to ship them. So kind of what they are. You know, this is a perfectly good one. There's a little bit of corrosion down in here and a little bit of rusting on the pin and stuff, but I mean, it's in decent condition. It's you don't see them that many. Guys are going to say they're really, really rare. There's another one on here that they want way too much money for, and they've told us how rare it is, of course, but this one doesn't have any bids yet. Started out at $1, like I say, fairly new seller. They're saying $15 UPS ground advantage. maybe you can do that. That seems a little low for me for shipping on that, but neither here nor there. So maybe a good deal for somebody, maybe not. Somebody's got an 8520 machine head nameplate reproduction. They're wanting $25 and $8.40 shipping for a 3 3/4 by 2-inch. I'm not going to go and look at it. Clausing nameplate. I'm not gonna trash on that because mine are gonna be probably in that same range for these smaller ones like that. Let's see, next one down, milling machine and shaper motor base, S7108A used pre-owned, $60 and 40/20 delivery. That's too much money. If I'm looking for one of these in good condition, let's see if this is in good condition. I'm going to say the casting's worth $40 if it's in good condition. This is from a seller that's been around for a while, wants a lot of money for their stuff. I suppose we could go and look at it a little bit larger, although that didn't really help us a whole lot. Standard motor base. Don't really remember why that hole's there, but there's only a couple of pictures here. And this is the other side. Has it been? Nope, doesn't look like it's been broken. Normally they'll be broken right across there and then welded up or brazed. Something like that. Good motor base. If I'm looking for a motor base, I'm going to be willing to give $40, and that'll ship in a medium flat rate box for $20. So 2022 is what I charge for those. So $60 in your door. They want $100 in the door. And I don't know what the description says here. Fine used Atlas milling machine and shaper motor base is all they've got. So we ragged on these guys about their descriptions that may have stretched the reality of the situation a little bit, and we called them out long enough that now basically most of these descriptions are going to say what you see is what you get. Look at the pictures there, the description, and good, excellent shape. On down here, used half nut or nuts, feed screws, that type of thing, or feed nuts, things like that out of brass. Don't buy this shit. One of them here, $24.99 and free delivery. Another one right below it, $39.99 and free delivery. They're not worth that. They're wore out pieces of crap. You don't want to spend your money on that. That's a waste of your money. So here we've got Atlas milling machine, a lot of gears. 3 number 64s, 2 number 48s, 2 number 40s, let's see, 3, 2, a 40, 2 number 40s, 24, 20, and a 1632 bushings, or 1632 and bushings. So there's a bunch of goofy gears here. There's a total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different gears, and then some bushings, a couple sets of bushings it looks like, for $129, and okay, free shipping. Yeah, and this is from a dealer that's been parting out stuff. Got a lot of feedback. I'm not real impressed. You're getting 3 number 64 gears. Well, you don't need 3. You're buying 2 that you don't need. You're getting an extra 48 gear that you don't need, and an extra 40 tooth gear that you don't need. So you're getting what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 or 7 gears, which I guess is still okay, but it's kind of, this is junk that they've got from parting out stuff, and they're sending you a whole pile of shit that you don't need about half of. So I'm not real impressed there. You can look at it for yourself and make your own decisions about that. But anyway, and I think most of these going on down here are all from this same seller. Table feet assembly slide bracket, $64.99. Yeah, same seller. Why do you need one of these? And the problem I have with a lot of the stuff we'll see, and I can't really tell on this one if it is or not, the bushing is going to be wore out, so you're going to want to replace the bushings if you're going through and doing that. This has been cleaned up a whole lot more than you would normally see, so it makes me wonder how it's been cleaned up. Has this been bead blasted or sand blasted? See, you can still see a little bit of the gunk down in the corners, like it didn't really clean everything up. Have these been caustically stripped of their you know, crap on them and stuff. Um, you're not getting a good buy on a lot of this stuff. These are people ripping you off, basically. If I was buying that slide assembly, it's worth 15 bucks to me. You know, 15 bucks and 10 bucks shipping, 25 bucks is all I'm going to give for it. The same way right below it, Atlas Milling Machine M147 Chrome Locking Handle Craftsman Tailstock Quill Lock, $49.99. The problem with a lot of these is they are Zamac, same seller, and I have no problem with Zamac whatsoever, other than the fact that a lot of this stuff has been wet and damaged over the years. This one actually looks pretty good, I think. So they're deteriorating, and you're going to have problems with them. They're just not going to hold up. This one actually looks pretty good for a used one. Somebody will probably give 50 bucks for it. You know, I've been producing these for a while, and I'm low on stock on everything. I've just been doing other stuff here the last few months and haven't gotten back to. We'll have the CNC running here over the winter, and we'll be producing a lot of these parts again to refill our inventory. And on that same note, right now, Atlas Machine website is not accepting any orders. I've shifted everything back over to the hillsgun website. I started having problems with that Atlas Machine website, and so we're starting to rework both of those websites. But all of this stuff, the store shifted over to the hillsgun.com website. All the stuff's still available just like it was there, and hopefully it will be efficient for right now. I was having problems with the Atlas Machine Shop website, so shifted that stuff back over. I'll be rebuilding that over the next month or so too, so we'll have everything up and going. This handle looks okay, but is it worth 50 bucks? Yeah, people will probably give that 50 bucks for it because it is a decent one. You know, it pays your money, takes your chances. Right below it, the Gib Chrome Lock Lever. Same thing, $49.99. I won't go in and look at it, but it's going to be the same thing. So down below there, W68 Atlas Craftsman XY Compound Machine Vise 7x7 drill mice. This is the cross-slide table originally designed for the drill press with the vise on it. They want $349.99 on the same seller. You got some rust on top of the table. This is the original vise. You know, you don't see a whole lot of these. Not a whole lot to them, but this table and everything looks to be complete. I suppose we could look at it a little bit closer. I don't think these are worth 350 bucks for the use you get out of them. You know, if you can pick these up for 200 bucks with the vise and everything, I think that's a pretty good deal. And everything you'll see on all of these, they'll say original paint and stuff. A lot of these have been repainted. They still look kind of vintage, but a lot of this stuff has still been repainted, at least recently, so it looks nicer than it actually may have been or may be. See, you got the patina on the vise itself, and you got the patina down underneath. The vise itself's got a little bit of dirt and stuff on it, same way with this cover, but they look pretty nice for being used and abused. You know, so there again, decide for yourself. You got a table that's been used a whole lot. You got some paint marks up here on the corners. You know, so is it made to look like it's used? Is it actually, or looks like it's in really good condition? Is it really in really good condition, or has it been kind of modified a little bit to make it look nicer than it may be condition-wise? Anyway. Now, right down below it, Atlas Milling Machine Cutter Guard Cover, M122. This is the one that was the very first thing we looked at. They want $499.99 for this one. Same seller. Looks to be in the same condition. I'm not going to go in and look at condition. Free shipping, well, it should be for 500 bucks. And then item description, in good working condition but have scratches, signs of use, and service marks, which is what all of these say. Okay, so it gives a little bit more, but nothing of importance at all. So 500 bucks for a cutter guard? No way. No way, no way. Same way right below it, Vintage Atlas M1301 Milling Machine Machinist Vise, 3-inch jaws and cap, no handle, 500 bucks. Same seller. I've said before, these vices, whether they're for the milling machine or the vape or the shaper, they're worth 250 bucks. They're original vices. They're correct for the machines, there's better vices for both the milling machine and the shaper out there. So yeah, there's nothing in the description that says any more than that. We can go in and look at the pictures a little bit more and see what we see here with them. Good looking vise. There again, looks pretty good, you know, for a used vise. Look at how shiny we are on this hand. These are almost always oil stained type of thing. And you know, on these, I suppose it's possible that these parts have been set on a shelf and not used hardly at all. But there, look at this end. See, you've got some oil staining here and here. Yet you look on the other end, and that's nice and shiny. That's all been polished up, and so this can be very deceiving. Now, if we look at the screw here, look at how sharp the tops of that Acme thread are right there. Come on down here and look at how rounded they are right in through there. This thing has been well used. Now, has it been cleaned up quite a bit and made to look like it's in a whole lot better shape than it actually is? I believe it has. You know, normally if these have been used, even when they're washed up and stuff, you get their little grungy looking stuff. Look at how shiny that is. We got a little more staining down on this end. Doesn't look quite as nice and clean as it does up at this end. There's been quite a bit of polishing done on this. If you look at them close, you can tell where it is and what it is. Yeah, see, and you can look at the screw heads here and look at they're a little bit scarfed up and everything. And to me, they're a little bit more scarfed up than the, you know, it would indicate that we should see a little bit more yuck on a lot of this stuff. Screw threads look a whole lot better size-wise comparison in this picture, but they're pretty well chowdered up. This is somebody's drilled a hole there. That's a little pock mark. And see, look at the tops of this. I bet has been shaved, at least been sanded down there, and then the vice jaw doesn't match up very well. I think these are made to look better than they actually are condition-wise. You see a fair amount of staining down underneath here. It looks like to me anyway. Yeah, it's quite a bit cleaner around the... Let me just hit that with a cutter. Not worth $500. Not worth $500. Alright. Well, I'm just kind of dawdling and picking on stuff here. Another XY compound vise with the same vise jaws on it as we looked at just a couple minutes ago. $295 our best offer. There's a bunch of stuff here and a couple other interesting ones. Atlas MF horizontal milling machine table feed handles and plates. Pre-owned, $105 and $12.60 delivery. Now, see, these are just machines that are being parted out. And this is a seller that I don't necessarily recognize, but it's got a lot of feedback, and I've seen quite a few things looking today. Comes with mounting bolts, woodruff keys, nuts, and split pins. Plate has some damage to the bronze bushing. One of the crank handles is loose but does not fall out. Items used and show signs of wear and oxidation. All sold as is. These have been cleaned up, obviously, because look at how shiny the bushings are. This is their damage right there on this one. But what gets me, we're looking at the back sides of these. Normally you would see these in a lot worse condition, and I believe that these parts have been sandblasted, which you're going to change these bushings out anyway. So you probably got crap impregnated in them from being sandblasted, bead blasted, whatever the case may be. But I expect these to be a little bit dirtier. These were chrome plated. There again, Zamac and then chrome plated. When we look at these pins, look at how shiny this end is on the one and dirty on the other, which tells me that the pins were left in here. It was sandblasted and it cleaned up these ends. Now, as you look at the handles, you expect to see chrome plating on all of these. And there again, Zamac. Look at the difference in color on these, where the plating's gone off of them. And these probably were copper plated, zinc plated, nickel plated, something before it had the chrome plating put on over the top of them, at least on part of these pieces. So look at how these don't have the chrome plating on them, basically. Although you see a little bit of yuck here, and you see some of the pitted chrome plating here, but look at how it's almost gone on all these handles. That tells me these were sandblasted to get most of the crap off of them. See how you see more chrome plating on this? They were, I think they were probably, there's the difference in that one. Look at the difference in color all the way around. So I tend to believe that these were, and see, these would have been probably an oil light bushing. They wouldn't have been all pitted out like this. They'd be shiny. So yeah, I believe these were sandblasted off, because the chrome plating was flaking off of them anyway. And they probably look better than they did originally, you know, before they were sandblasted. But yeah, look at how plating's gone on these. You know, say one of these handles is loose, and these to me look like they were very definitely sandblasted off. So you can see more of the chrome plating here, like you would expect to see on these parts, just enough to get all the crap off. But yeah, these are in, these are not worth $100. No way, no way, no way. Yeah, see, that's definitely, that's been all sandblasted off of there. This has been sandblasted down to whatever the plating was underneath. And a lot of times if they're chrome plating something, especially over aluminum, you've got to put, I don't remember exactly what you put, if it's a copper plate will stick to aluminum, something to stick to aluminum, and then you plate your chrome over the top of that. So these are in nasty shape here. So value wise, $50. $50. I'm not going to give any more than $50. So moving on, right below it there's the large table lift hand wheel, 923. I won't go in and look at it. It's the same way though. You can see some plating on the outside, but inside on the three spokes you can see where it's been sandblasted off. Now down below it, there's a set of Atlas milling machine index centers, and this is a good looking set of index centers, other than the fact that they want $925 for it. Somebody may very well give that. To me, $600. You know, $600. There again, I'm torn when I start pricing this stuff, because I'd started building index centers. I said I wasn't going to sell any completed centers. I wasn't going to sell any castings. I may at some point, and I'm going to have, you know, $600, $700, $800 for them, for the labor involved in them and everything involved doing it. So But there again, that's why I don't push a lot of that stuff. Are they worth the money that everybody seems to, you know, want for this stuff? To me, a set of these index centers is not worth that. I'd say $600 for the way they are. They've got 2 gears with it. They've got a chuck with it, and everything looks complete and in pretty good condition. But to give more than $600, $600 for this set of index centers is just way too much. Like I say, good looking set of centers. To me, these are in realistic condition. This is the way they should be. They should be presented to you. So there we go. Cross slide down below at $36 and $7.71 delivery. To me, that's fair. I just bought it's been a while now, but I bought a cross slide M1-5 for about that much money, $40 and a little bit of shipping. So if you need a casting, that's a decent price. And I'm not going to look at a lot of this stuff here because you can go back and look if you're interested, and there's no sense in me wasting time going and looking at every one of these. There's a milling machine table here for the Atlas milling machine, $99, but they want $99.22 delivery for it. $140, $150 in the door is fair for that. And it's a pretty good looking table. I don't see any scarf marks on it. It's not chewed up. There's no busted out T-slots or anything like that. Down below that, there's a back body cover plate, which is the cover plate that covers the oil access port to the inside of the base of the milling machine. They want $30 and then I think $20 shipping. $20, and I think that might fit in a flat rate box. $30, $35 is going to be fair for that. Much more than that, and it's too much. It's a basic plate. So $30, they want $30 and $17.15 shipping. $45, I think that's too much. About $30 in your door, $30, $35. So this excellent condition. Excellent. It's a flat plate. It's excellent. Okay, now we run into some actual milling machines, and we've looked at part of these before. Atlas horizontal milling machine, they want $2,500, and this one's been listed before. We've looked at this machine, but we'll take time to look at it again. Nice example of the Atlas horizontal milling machine. Original paint on the machine, has the original stiffener and cross-feed mechanism is complete. Negatives, the machine is missing the lower belt guard, and previous owner drilled and tapped several holes in the table, which could actually be useful in a number of applications. Aside from these two items, this is about as clean as they get. Runs as it should and ready to make chips. So let's look at this fine example of what it is. So that's not an original light. It's something of that same vintage, but that's not an original light. And as we know, I'm going to pick apart this machine because, and several of them that are listed along with it, because that's what we're going to do with these, that they say they're in great shape and all that. I don't remember if that's the original motor or not, but I believe the pulleys are gone on this. Now this is missing the lower belt guard, and it's missing the hinge, as we'll see here later on. The screws on here, they put Allen head cap screws in here. Those were originally a pan head slotted screw, was what was original on there. We're missing a bolt here for this cover. These are little things, but if we're wanting big bucks for these, why, we should be looking at exactly what we're getting. So we do have the overarm support. You can see part of the holes in the table back here, back behind. We can see that later on better too. Looks to be an original support here, although I think if we look later on, it's one of them is, it looks like the bottom cap is turned backwards. Got the kick out for the power feed. Got both handles on the ends. The back gear lever's not busted off, which you'll see on a lot of them. Nothing else from this picture. It's got a Leland motor, so it doesn't have an original motor, and I don't believe this pulley's correct. That's an awful big discrepancy in sheave sizes between where the belt's on and the outer hole there. It does have an arbor driver. Got an arbor on it. This, I think, is all just the light mounting up here that they've added. That's not original. Off the top of my head, everything looks okay there. Old faded out badging, and that is faded out pretty bad. Somebody's ID tag back here, MFC 8584. That speed chart's a piece of shit. Leland motor, not original. Light's not original. Looking down the headstock, it's just showing the guards there. Nothing there that jumps out and tells us anything on any of this stuff, really. This is all just what they are. There's all your holes in the table. Doesn't affect anything other than if you're paying a premium price, why you're wanting premium something. It's got scarf marks here on the table too. It's not in great shape, you know. I mean, it's beat up pretty bad anyway. A lot of rust on it. There's several mills and some shapers that are listed that are worth looking at, but I guess that's all on this one. Right down below it, there's one they want $4,000 for, or best offer, and this one's been listed too. We've looked at this one before. This is from a new seller. Looks like they're selling for somebody else, type of thing. Description says heavy duty precision engineering, built to last, US, made in the USA. Feast your eyes on this classic Atlas MFC horizontal mill, complete with iconic change-o-matic gearbox, rock-solid cast iron base. Whether you're shaping, slotting, or just admiring its retro beauty, this mill means business. So let's look at this $4,000 beauty. It's not even worth close to $4,000. So nothing major to see there. You're getting a few cutters with it. Maybe good, maybe bad, probably, you know, I mean, they're used cutters, so pays your money, takes your chances type of thing. Looks okay from this end. No drawbar apparent yet anyway. Backside, you can't really see anything there. That's probably a factory motor from just looking at what you can see of the badging. Look at how rough this casting is. Now, this is nothing against this machine. This just is a display of how rough these Atlas castings can be. So you look at all the sand fall out there and everything. Those big places. Now the table on this is, you know, pretty brown looking. There's no. It's had quite a bit of moisture in it. This is somebody's manufactured clamp. This is where the oiling system would normally go. That looks kind of crappy, but okay. You know, we're doing okay there yet. I can't really tell what's going on here. That almost looks like a pulley shiv to me there, which could be for a vertical attachment, which is not here. Looks like it's got the kickouts. Back gear handle's busted off. Later style back gear handle, but it is busted. There's nothing there. I guess this is just a flat plate, it looks like, or a big washer. Although that's not right with that nut on there that way. Now, for those of you that are looking up here, what's wrong with this picture here? What's wrong with this picture? All right, moving on. The oil staining. MFC, can't really make out that serial number. Some of these opened up with a hinge down on the bottom. Some of them, you know, which would take a knob there. Some of them, I guess, were screwed on top. I'm not sure why we see both, you know, 3 holes there instead of anything else. Now, if we look at the overarm supports, this is the proper overarm lock for the mill. This is not. This is could be any of a number of things. This may very well be a 6-inch tailstock lock. Probably a couple other possibilities where that could be, but that's not proper for this machine. Yeah, see, this one's proper. This one's not. There again, what's wrong with this picture up here? I don't believe that was a light. I think it had a different cover over here. Otherwise, this could potentially be something close to being right, although you see it's not wired in, hooked up or anything. Now, it does have a coolant pump with it, and this is the back plate for the coolant pump. The problem is this pump's going to be shot. I doubt this is going to work. Probably desirable if you want to rebuild one to original like that, but just bear in mind you're going to spend a lot of money and a lot of work getting that cleaned up, getting motor redone, impeller bearings, whatever it takes in there is going to be probably substantial to get that working. And here you see an arbor driver. I believe these are probably the thrust bushings or thrust washers that go in the headstock. You've got a shell end mill there, a couple of shell end mills. That I believe is a shell end mill driver on the bottom part of that, I'm guessing. So this and this shell end mill will probably both fit on there. That's my guess. We've got the overarm support, which is a desirable accessory. There's your drawbar. That looks to be the a end mill holder that would go in the other end of the drawbar, so this thread would thread into this end, lock it into the spindle, and you have an arbor here. Now, the thing that is missing off of this is there's no overarm support bracket here that I've seen in any of those pictures, and I went back and looked. So you're missing that. That's kind of an important accessory if you want to use that overarm support. If you want to use the arbor, because you need a support on the other end of the arbor. Yes, that is a pulley. They had a vertical attachment on this. There was a Marvin or a Marvin style vertical attachment that was hooked on here. I think Rosnock made one too. But yeah, so that's what was on this machine. And if you look right here, you see a little bit of discrepancy in paint color. Although that may just be the lighting, because that looks light too. Anyway, is it worth $4,000? No. No, 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 no. This is a $1,500 machine. You know, 1,500 bucks is what it's worth. So, on down. Now here's another mill, and I think then we can move on from milling machines, because I don't think there's anything else really earth-shattering on down here. And I'll go on to shapers very quickly. One more milling machine. Now this is from a machinery dealer. They want $32.99.99, and freight, of course. All of these you're going to have to pay freight on them, pick them up, do something. Now this is from a seller that I've actually dealt with. It's an industrial dealer. And I think they're a good, honest dealer. But let's look at what they have. And I think we've looked at this before. They want $32.99 for it. $32.99.99. And it says, do they have anything in the description? No, they've got more of an industrial dealer look to them, you know, layout. So that's what it is. Let's go back up and blow these pictures up and look at them. This is an interesting machine. Is it worth $32.99? No, I don't believe it is. So it's an Atlas horizontal mill. This is a production mill. And like I say, I think we've looked at it before. This machine, I believe, has been run really, really hard. And the only reason I keep coming back to this machine and it interests me is it is a production model. So it's going to be a MH is going to be the model of it. Now, set up in an industrial environment, I have no doubt of that whatsoever. So if we look at it close, we've got production hand levers here. The handle's busted off. This is your cross feed. So the handle's busted off the original handle, which is there. It does have the proper milling machine vise. Electrical box. I think they listed this as being a 220 or a 440 machine. We've got a industrial numbering on it type of thing. Got a drawbar through. You've got a arbor. And this arbor is kind of interesting because apparently this is, I'm guessing this is a spacer or a separate bearing to go with it, whatever the case may be. There's been a guard added, sheet metal guard for coolant, you know, help control your coolant a little bit. Missing hole, or it's got holes here and here. Now this knob here is for the overarm cover. And I don't believe there's any kind of a tag that's visible on this machine that gives us the actual model number. So anyway, like I say, this screw is what locks your overarm cover on. So that's the first photo. Well, there's our Atlas tag, but that's yeah, see, it's an MH, but there's no, you can't read what the serial number is. And it's got a lot of coolant etching on it, I think, more than anything else. So we see that. What else do we got here? They probably had either a lube system installed, or else they've moved the control box, electrical control box, out of the way, probably, is my guess. A lot of yuck on there. Now, when you look down here, this is, you can tell this is an earlier machine anyway, because it's got the original cast-in boss for the hinge to open your cover there. There, you know, we talked about before, a lot of the later models or ones, I think they decided it was less expensive to do it that way and more easier to add the hinge with the two screws down below rather than try and fight with a casting that may or may not come out well right there. So that's the reason for that, but earlier model. Other than that, everything is just, I think this elevation stop is what this is. I believe in one of the pictures it looked like the top of this was bent. This machine's been run hard. It's been used in an industrial environment, and it shows it, you know, so I expect this machine to be extremely worn. But by the same token, the only thing that makes it desirable is it's an MH. It's the production model. So that's what we got. Pretty ugly looking machine, but those two hand levers make it a little bit more desirable, in my opinion, for me. Like I say, this handle's busted off. They just replaced it with a bolt and a aluminum spinner, probably is what it amounts to. Different guard, you know, I mean, it's custom handmade guards for it. Not even close to being original there. So that's there. You know, and it's got a different motor on it. That looks like an awful large motor too. You know, somebody's put something on there for an industrial motor. So it's running quite a bit more horsepower. They've got sheet metal guard over here rather than the proper guards for it. Yeah, more coolant deflection underneath here. I didn't look at the table. Doesn't look to be scarfed up or anything. Of course, there's no real reason it would be. Amount of vise on there or whatever your holding fixture is, and you just run it. So it would have been set up for one job back in the dirty little corner of the shop, and run for that one job probably, and that's all it did most of its life. A little bit of tooling, it's hard to tell. That looks like a rear tool post for a lathe is what that actually looks like, but who knows, you know. So you got a little bit of tooling with it anyway. But that's what it is. You know, that's the only reason I find it interesting, is because it would have been a Model MH production machine, and that's all we got under mills. But let's look at shapers. There was a few things there. 7B metal shaper, pre-owned, $2,500 and $100.30 delivery. So that, and the delivery, I think they go back and say that no, that's not right. $2,500. $2,500. And of course, I say these are all not. Very nice repaint 20 to 30 years ago. Other than that, completely original. Machine was used in a plastic shop and retired about 20 years ago. Dun, 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 dun. The Atlas shapers are not worth more than 15. I don't care what they are. They're just not worth more than 15. So, if we look at this. Proper shaper vise. It is a 7B. Got the extension underneath. Machine actually looks okay. I don't have any real grit, no tool holder there. Anyway. Atlas motor. The guard for the label for the switch is gone. That's somebody's just a piece of sheet metal they've done there. Everything looks, I looked at this area, normally they're getting cracked here or cracked here. Messes them up. This one looks okay, I think. Didn't see anything wrong with it there. It's got all the guards on it. It's got the oil tray. So all in all, it's a, you know, although it's awful brown here, look at how rusty that is. So that's the downside to it, and it's shiny enough. It looks like they tried to rub a little bit of stuff on there, but it's awful brown looking there on the end. So that's probably the proper handle. Looks pretty much like it's, yeah, I think that's a proper handle there. All the paint's gone off the labels there. Can't beat the machine up too much. See, that would have been painted at one time. I can't beat the machine up too much, other than the fact that it's $2,500, and that's too much money. That vice jaw, I guess maybe it does sit proud. I was thinking that looked like it almost set recessed a little bit down below the top, but yeah, I can't really beat the machine up too bad. There again, I don't think they're worth $2,500. I think $1,500 is a fair price for one of these machines. So that was the first one. $1,500, 7B shaper with and base, all original parts. No bids, $1,500, no bids or best offer. This one I had a couple of issues with. And the description says, all original parts, one owner. Atlas 7B metal shaper is a precision machine designed for shaping metal with all original parts intact. This shaper, manufactured by the reputable brand Atlas, is specifically built for metalworking tasks, making it ideal for a variety of industrial applications. Atlas 7B model is known for its reliability and efficiency in shaping metal materials, ensuring high-quality results for your projects. Whether you're a professional manufacturer or a hobbyist metalworker, this shaper is a valuable addition to your workshop. A valuable addition to your workshop. So, big pictures, $1,500, all original. Well, that paint sure is different for being all original. There's one of the things right off the bat. Anybody see what the second thing is? Anybody see? Anybody see? Other than the fact that it's not a 7B. This is a Model 7. 7B extends on back and has a foot to support it down there. The 7s were the first model. Found out to be not quite rigid enough, so they extended the foot out and put a support foot down underneath that slid side to side under those. Collectible wise, 7s are still desirable and everything. From a functional standpoint, no, not quite as much. You know, I mean, they'll still do the job, and if that's what you got, then that's what you got. But it's not a 7B like it's represented. I question the color on this. I don't believe this is the original door, you know, so it's not all original. And minor thing, it definitely stands out, but I think that's a issue with it. So $1,500? No, I don't think so. And you know, I just, not something I'm looking for. I believe all the guards are on it. It does have a stand underneath it, so that's an advantage. And it's got the larger guard on the other side. So, decent enough machine, but it's not a 7B. So, you're not getting all the rigidity that you would be getting out of the later model machines. So, $1,500, not to me. You know, $1,000 machine. You know, the only thing that could potentially drive it higher is somebody saying it is an early model machine and more collectible. But there again, I've said all along that I don't believe these machines are more collectible. These are meant to be used, and this one's extremely exaggerated in the description about how desirable it is for a industrial application, because it's going to be great in production and everything. You can make anything you want with an Atlas shaper except money, with any kind of a shaper except money. Original vise. This is a shaper vise, $575 or best offer, and $25 delivery. I'm not even going to go in and look at it. It's an okay looking vise. $250. That's all these vices are worth, is $250. Right below it, milling machine, shaper motor base, S7-108A used pre-owned, $60 and 40/20 delivery. This may be the same one that we looked at under milling machine. $60 in the door. And a bunch of small parts, machines being parted out, just little parts that shaper oil pan, S7-107, $349.99. This is from a seller that we've looked at under milling machine stuff. You know, I think I was selling these for $150, something like that, for my reproductions. And there again, it's everything's backlogged for me, and I'm not even pushing stuff right now. But they're not worth $350. You know, you're dealing with used parts, and this is all parts that the same seller is parting out off of a machine. Now here he's got an original vintage Atlas 7B shaper table knee crank handle, $129. No, this is not an original shaper crank handle for the shaper or the milling machine. The ones that go on the machine are the 3/8 square shaft. Goes out, got the cast iron with the long loopy handle and the teardrop face on it. This to me is something that somebody's probably fitted up to do. They put a square shank into this and they've added this handle on the outside. This, excuse me, this looks to me in reality like it is a power feed level or a threading lever handle for on a lathe. It's what it looks like it is to me. This is not a, and that with that square boss on it and everything, this is not an Atlas shaper, not an Atlas mill from the vintage that I deal with anyway. This is not that at all. So buyer beware. Pays your money, takes your chances, and if you buy this as an original Atlas part, you're getting screwed. So there we go. And I think that's about all we got here. There's a bunch of pulleys and things like that. Some of them are overpriced, some of them aren't. A bunch of gearbox parts for the shaper, way overpriced stuff. You know, way overpriced. They're completely out of line. Here's a Atlas 7B metal shaper. They want $18.50 for. We could look at this very quickly. $18.50 your best offer, and I think this is one that's missing power feed parts and things like that. Atlas 7B metal shaper machine is in good working condition. Table extension is included and was only removed due to being in the way where the machine was located. I had a subscriber send me a private email and ask me about this table extension on this. So if we look at this machine, looks to be a decent enough machine. I think it was probably used in a military facility, naval facility, and I'm guessing a naval facility actually, and I'll explain why here in a minute. Got the hole where the motor was changed out and wore its way or was drilled out to run through the guard. Got an original shaper vise. There's the proper handle that goes on the Atlas shapers and mills. Now, there's the first picture. Got a lathe tool holder in it rather than a shaper tool holder. There again, this is not really what interests me on this machine. It looks to be pretty much original, I think. Let's skip the video of it. Now, and it looks to be a complete machine. There again, we go back to the thing where I say a shaper's, worth $1,200, maybe 15 at the outside, but they have to be pretty nice for me to say they're worth 15 and have a lot of accessories with them, like the proper tool holder. And this one's obviously been repainted. On the fourth picture here, they show a table extension right here that's going to bolt on the front of the table. This is not a Atlas part as far as I know. Now my response was, this may be a part that Atlas produced a drawing for, because it does have a S7, whatever the number is, 105, 405, I think, as we look at it upside down. So it's got an Atlas number on it. I've never seen one of these, and this casting does not really have the appearance of a Atlas casting to me. And it's got a PS6 number, so to me that would be like a shipyard number, like Puget Sound Naval Shipyard type of thing. So that's kind of why I believe it was a naval foundry that cast this. Now, if it was just an individual or somebody, a foundry that cast one of these up to go on an Atlas shaper like this, they probably would not have taken the time to put a casting number in it, is my feeling on it. And it doesn't really have the lines that I expect to see on an Atlas part. See this big nice curving arch in here, which maybe it is, but to me that's not really Atlas aesthetics to be the way they normally would do stuff. So I think this was probably a special purpose support table for one specific job. And just to produce something like that for one specific job, the only people that I think would take the time and the care to put a casting number in it or do something like that would be military that wants a number for everything for their system. So that's my belief with this table. Now, for the average guy, this, in my opinion, serves absolutely no function. except as some sort of a support, because you can't mount anything on it out here. All it would be able to do would be to support maybe a long shaft that you are cutting a keyway in part way, or some sort of a casting that had something sticking out on the front of it out here that you needed to support anyway, and you were going to do on a production style basis. So that's what I believe has happened with this table. There again, if it was an actual Atlas part, they were taking the time to have a casting made and done something, they probably would have put a thicker tabletop on it and put T-slots in it. To me, that's more in Atlas aesthetics. You know, and I believe it may not even be a casting, it may be a weldment that's been welded together, but to me it kind of has a look of a casting, but it kind of doesn't. And one of the things that makes it look more like a casting to me is that number in it. So I believe it to be a casting. I don't believe it's a Atlas factory casting, although it may have been a casting off of an Atlas drawing or an adaptation off of an Atlas drawing, something. I don't honestly know, but that's what I think about that table. I'd like to see some more pictures of that table just to, you know, be able to maybe guess a little bit closer. I'd like to be able to see a little bit closer and make sure this was cast and not welded, and I believe it is, you know, but I can't tell you 100%, but that's what I believe about that casting. So is the machine itself worth $1,800? No, the machine's worth $1,250, you know, worth $500 less. So pays your money, takes your chances, you know. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I got today. I don't think there was anything else here that really grabbed my attention. Some stuff that's pre-owned that's been repainted. You know, they may say it's not, say it's all original and everything, but it's been repainted. Small shaper guards, $329. Now they're, you know, used factory guard, $150 for that one. Large guard, $349. That's not too far out of the realm. You know, if you're willing to give that for a large guard, that seems to me, you know, pays your money, takes your chances. Original shaper doors, $100 a piece. You know, these are kind of beat up. You got an original guard, one of them's got badging on it, but the rest, and the knob, and the rest of the thing's pretty well beat up. The other one's just got the knob and it's kind of beat up and doesn't have any badging, but it's got 4 holes for badging instead of 2, so somebody's done something else goofy there. You know, a lot of goofy stuff that's not worth spending the money on. 7B counter shaft assembly, $400 and $30. No, that's worth $175, $200 in your door. You know, maybe 2 1/4. So anyway, normal overpriced crap, you know, pays your money, takes your chances. Anyway, hope you find something useful there, a little bit informative maybe. Comment, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.